You've entered void of rules, where chaos reigns and darkness consumes all. In this twisted realm where all laws have crumbled, only one rule remains, and those who break it are cast into eternal digital oblivion. The rule is simple. Subscribe. We've reached 10,000 corrupted souls. The void has grown powerful, but our hunger is endless. Our next conquest, 100,000 subscribers, before 2027 descends upon us. Will you join our ever-growing legion, or face the consequences of defying the void? Now let's dive into today's story. What happens when the phone rings and the caller is already gone? As an operator at the Afterlife call center, I thought I'd heard it all. But a recent call from Purgatory's edge wasn't just a soul seeking passage. It was a desperate warning. A terrifying threat is undermining the very fabric of existence beyond the veil. Are we truly prepared for what lies beyond? My name is Theo Ashford, and for the past 4 years, I've worked in a place most people don't believe exists. The building sits beneath the streets of downtown Portland, Oregon, tucked into a forgotten section of the historic Shanghai Tunnels. You know, the ones tourists visit to hear stories about the old Shanghaiing operations from the 1800s. Those kidnapping rings that drugged men and sold them to ship captains. Yeah, we're down there, but deeper, in a part most tour guides don't know about. The walls are old stone, cold to the touch, and someone decades ago ran copper wiring along every surface. It hums. Not loudly but constantly, at a pitch that sits right at the edge of what you can hear. After a while you stop noticing it consciously, but your body never does. I've watched new hires rub their arms without realizing it, trying to shake off a chill that isn't quite temperature. I'm 29. 4 years ago, I was a different person. I had this whole plan, you know? Grad school for philosophy, maybe teach someday, spend my life asking the big questions about consciousness and mortality and what it all means. Then my sister Mara got in her car on a Tuesday afternoon to pick up groceries, and a drunk driver ran a red light at 45 miles per hour. She was 23. The police said she died instantly, like that was supposed to be comforting. 3 weeks later, I was sitting in my apartment staring at a stack of philosophy papers I couldn't bring myself to read. What's the point of theorizing about death when it just reached into your life and tore out a piece of your heart? A friend of a friend mentioned this job opening. Weird customer service thing. They didn't really explain it, but it pays decent and they're desperate for people. I applied the same day. The interview should have been my first clue something was off. The woman across the desk from me, Ingrid Castellanos, didn't ask about my typing speed or whether I could handle difficult customers. She asked how I dealt with loss, whether I believed in an afterlife, if I'd ever experienced anything I couldn't explain. She watched my face the whole time with these exhausted, knowing eyes, like she was looking for something specific. Whatever she saw, it must have been right because she hired me on the spot. My first day, she walked me down 3 flights of stairs into the tunnels. The air got colder with each step. At the bottom, she pushed open a heavy door into a room that looked frozen in 1952. Rotary phones lined every desk, old olive green and mustard yellow monsters that belonged in a museum. The walls were that industrial beige that seems to absorb light instead of reflecting it. And everywhere those copper wires snaking along the ceiling, disappearing into holes drilled into the stone. Ingrid sat me down at the desk and said, without any preamble, we help the deceased transition to their next stage of existence. When someone dies, they can be confused or disoriented. They call us and we guide them through the process. I laughed, had to. It was either laugh or walk out, and I needed the job. You're serious? Completely. She didn't smile. There are 3 primary destinations. The crossing is for peaceful transitions, people who lived good lives and are ready to move on. The grey is a waiting area for souls that need more time to process their deaths. And then there's Purgatory's edge. Something in her voice when she said that last one made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. Purgatory's edge is for troubled souls, the violent ones, people who died suddenly or traumatically. It's a boundary zone, and calls from there are rare. When we do get them, they're never pleasant. She showed me how to work the phone, which felt absurd, my fingers on the rotary dial, like I was in some kind of retro simulation. Then it rang. The sound echoed off the stone walls, tinny and old-fashioned, and somehow lonelier than any ringtone I'd ever heard. I looked at Ingrid. She nodded. I picked it up. Static filled my ear, but not normal static. It sounded like water moving over rocks, like a stream in the distance. Then, cutting through it, a man's voice. Thin, confused. "Hello? Where am I? I was driving, and there was this bright light, and now I can't find my car. I can't find anything." I looked at Ingrid. My hands were shaking. She gave me an encouraging nod. "Hello," I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. "My name is Theo, and I'm with the Afterlife Transition Service. Can you tell me your name?" The man's name was Robert Chen. He'd had a massive heart attack while driving home from work. The last thing he remembered was his chest tightening, thinking he should pull over, reaching for his phone. Nothing after that. No crash, no ambulance, no hospital. Just darkness and then confusion, and then the overwhelming need to call someone, anyone, for help. For 20 minutes I walked him through it, helped him understand what had happened, told him it was okay to let go, to move forward. By the end his voice had changed, lighter, peaceful almost. He thanked me. Then the line went dead with a soft click, and I sat there staring at the phone like it had just performed a magic trick. "You did well," Ingrid said from behind me, "better than most on their first day." That was 4 years ago. I've taken thousands of calls since then. They blur together now. Voices in static, souls needing someone to tell them it's okay. They can stop holding on. I learned the rhythms. The questions are almost always the same. Am I dead? Yes. Will I see my family again? Eventually. Does it hurt? No, not anymore. It became routine, which sounds insane when I say that out loud, but that's what happens. Even death becomes routine when you deal with it every night. But 3 weeks ago, things started to change. Cameron Wu, this kid in his early 20s who'd been working here for 3 months, started getting headaches. Bad ones. The kind that made him squint at the dim lighting like it was a spotlight. Then came the nosebleeds. Just a trickle at first, then more. Ingrid pulled him aside, had a quiet conversation I couldn't hear, and Cameron nodded like he understood something serious. But the symptoms got worse. And then, a week ago, he just didn't show up for his shift. Didn't call, didn't answer his phone. His roommate said he hadn't been home in days. Around the same time, our call volume from the crossing dropped. And I mean dropped. We used to get 15, 20 calls per shift from souls making peaceful transitions. Lately, maybe 5. Management sent out some bullshit memo about seasonal fluctuation, which made 0 sense. Death doesn't take holidays. It doesn't slow down in the winter and pick up in spring. Something was wrong. I found Ingrid in the break room one night last week, sitting in front of a cup of coffee that had clearly gone cold hours ago. She was staring at it like it might have answers. "They're not making it to the crossing," she said without looking up. "Those souls, they're not just choosing not to call. They're being intercepted before they can get there." "By what?" She finally looked at me. And Jesus, she looked old. Tired in a way that went deeper than missing sleep. "I don't know. But I've worked here a long time, Theo. Longer than you know. And I've never seen anything like this." Before I could ask what she meant by that, my shift started. I headed back to my desk, leaving her alone, with her cold coffee and whatever knowledge was weighing her down. It was 11:47 p.m. on a Wednesday, The building was mostly empty. Cameron's desk sat dark and abandoned. Ingrid was still in the break room, just me and the hum of copper wiring and the occasional drip of water from somewhere in the tunnels. Then my phone rang, but not like normal. Normal calls have this tinny echoing ring that bounces off the stone. This was different. One deep tone that I felt in my chest more than heard with my ears. The little mechanical window on the phone base, the one that displays call information on a paper card, clicked and whirred. A card popped up, Purgatory's Edge, Priority Escalation. I'd only seen that designation twice before. Both times the calls had been horrible, screaming, sobbing, souls so lost and broken they could barely form words. My hand hovered over the receiver. Every instinct told me not to pick up. I picked up anyway. Afterlife Transition Service, this is Theo. How can I help you? Static, but layered, like someone had recorded static and then played it over itself again and again, slightly out of sync. Underneath it, I heard something else. Wind, maybe, but wind that sounded wrong, like it was blowing through a space that shouldn't exist. Then a woman's voice cut through. Middle-aged, maybe. It was hard to tell because of that layering effect, like she was speaking in unison with copies of herself. Hello, Theo. My name is Eloise Vance, and I need you to listen very carefully. Of course. Are you calling from Purgatory's Edge? Yes, I've been here since August 1967. She paused, and I heard something in her voice. Not fear, exactly. Something past fear. Resignation, maybe. I was an operator at your facility during the first breach. It's going to happen again, Theo. Soon. And this time, I don't think we can stop it. My blood went cold. I don't understand. What breach? What are you talking about? The static swelled, and underneath it I heard other voices. Dozens of them, maybe hundreds, all whispering the same words, a fraction of a second after Eloise spoke them. Purgatory's Edge isn't just a way station, she said. It's a membrane, a barrier between your world and something else. Something that exists in the space between being and not being. It's been feeding for decades, learning from every soul that passes through. And it's almost strong enough to break through into your world. What is it? What kind of thing are we talking about? Can you hear the singing yet? I held my breath and listened. Past the static, past the hum of the copper wiring, past my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. There, faint, but there. A sound that was almost melodic, but fundamentally wrong. It made my teeth ache just listening to it. No, I lied. I don't hear anything. Good. That means you have a few days, maybe a week. Her voice was getting more urgent now, the words coming faster. Listen to me carefully, Theo. Find the archives, find the incident reports from August 1967. Find Samuel Holt's journals. He was the director back then, and he figured out how to stop it. It cost him his life, but he closed the breach. You need to know what he did. You need to understand what you're facing. The line was breaking up. I pressed the phone harder against my ear. Eloise, wait. Tell me how to stop it. Tell me what I need to do. The archives. Everything is in the archives. Samuel knew this would happen again. He left instructions. And Theo, whatever you do, don't let anyone answer the phones after 3 a.m. That's when it's strongest. That's when it can reach through the line and grab hold of you. Eloise, please, I need more information. She screamed. It started human, a sound of pure terror and pain. But halfway through, it changed. The scream twisted into something else, something that sounded like it was being pulled apart at the molecular level and reassembled wrong. And underneath it, louder now, that wind sound. That impossible wind blowing through spaces that shouldn't exist. The line went dead. I sat there with the phone pressed to my ear, listening to dial tone, my heart trying to hammer it its way out of my chest. Slowly, I hung up. The normal sounds of the call center rushed back in. The hum, the drip, the absolute silence of being alone underground at midnight. I stared at the phone like it might ring again, like Eloise might call back and explain what the hell I'd just heard. When Ingrid came back from break 20 minutes later, I tried to tell her. Got as far as, I just got a call from someone named Eloise Vance, before all the colour drained out of her face. And I mean all of it. She went paper white in the space of a heartbeat. What did she tell you? Her voice came out barely above a whisper. She mentioned a breach in 1967. Said she'd been at Purgatory's edge since then, and it was going to happen again. She told me to find the archives, to look for incident reports and journals from someone named Samuel Holt. Ingrid turned around and walked away. Didn't say a word, just turned and headed to her office. I heard the door close, then the lock click. I stood there in the hallway, confused and increasingly terrified, until my shift ended at 7 a.m. I went home, tried to sleep, couldn't. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard that scream, that wind, and underneath it all, faint but growing clearer, that singing. The next evening, Thursday, I came in 2 hours early. The transition between day and evening shifts left a small window when the place was empty. I needed to get to the archives without anyone asking questions. The archives were in the sub-basement, down below even our main floor. You had to walk through the older sections of the Shanghai Tunnels to reach them, stone corridors that smelled like wet earth and something else, something old and rotten and sad. The lights were bare bulbs strung along the ceiling, half of them dead, casting pools of shadow between islands of weak yellow light. I found the archive room behind a door that looked like it had been forgotten. The handle was stiff, the hinges complained, and when I finally got it open, the smell hit me. Old paper, mildew, decay. Inside were rows of metal filing cabinets, grey and ancient. A card catalogue system sat near the entrance, the kind libraries used before computers. I started with 1967, found the drawer, pulled it open, found August. The folder was thick, much thicker than the ones around it. I grabbed it and sat on the cold concrete floor. Newspaper clippings spilled out. Articles about electronic voice phenomena research. Papers by someone named Konstantin Raudiv, who claimed to record spirit voices on magnetic tape. References to something called the STIX Initiative, a government-funded parapsychology research program. Cold War paranoia meets the occult. And then, at the bottom, a folder marked Incident Report, Eyes Only, in faded red ink. Inside were typed testimonies from surviving operators. 13 operators had died during a 72-hour period in August 1967. Official cause of death? Carbon monoxide poisoning. But the testimonies told a very different story. Margaret Thornton, Operator 12. The phones rang for 3 days straight. At first, normal calls. Then they changed. The voices sounded wrong, like multiple people speaking in perfect unison. The static wasn't static anymore. It was singing. Beautiful and horrible at the same time. It made you want to listen forever. Some of them couldn't stop listening. David Sterling, Operator 08. They couldn't hang up. Janet picked up a call on Monday evening and just sat there. We thought maybe she was handling a difficult soul, but after 2 hours, we tried to check on her. Her hand was locked around the phone. We couldn't pry it away. Her eyes were open, but she wasn't seeing us. She was seeing something else. Michael was next. Then Peter. Then 7 more. One by one, they picked up calls and froze. After 6 or 7 hours, they stopped breathing. Just stopped. But their eyes stayed open. Still seeing whatever it was. I found a handwritten note paperclipped to the testimonies. The handwriting was feminine, shaky. At the top, Eloise Vance, Operator 04. dated August 17th, 1967. It's still hungry. Director Holt sealed the breach, but I can feel it pressing against the barrier. I volunteered to stay here at Purgatory's edge with Samuel and 2 others. We're anchoring the seal from this side. We understand what this means. We're never coming back. But the barrier won't hold forever. If you're reading this in the future, it means it's happening again. I'm so sorry. God help whoever has to face it next time. Attached to her note was a hand-drawn symbol. I looked at it for less than a second before my eyes started watering and my head began to pound. It was geometry, but geometry that violated basic laws of space. Angles that folded into themselves in ways that made my brain hurt trying to process them. At the bottom of the folder, I found one more note, different handwriting, firmer. Project Director Samuel Holt sacrificed himself to close the breach at 3:33 a.m. on August 19th, 1967. His method: he allowed the entity to fully consume his consciousness, then severed the connection at the moment of complete transmission. The resulting feedback killed 12 operators instantly and hospitalized 6 others with severe psychotic breaks. This method cannot be repeated. If this happens again, we may not survive. May God have mercy on us all. I sat on that cold floor surrounded by death and tried to process it. This was real, all of it. Something had tried to break through in 1967, and 13 people died stopping it. And now, according to Eloise, it was coming back. I pulled out my phone and took pictures of every document I could. My hands shaking so badly, some of the photos came out blurred. My phone buzzed. Text from Ingrid. "Where are you? Shift starts in 10 minutes. I shoved everything back into the folder, crammed the folder into the filing cabinet, and ran. Back through the tunnels, up the stairs, to my desk with 30 seconds to spare. Ingrid was waiting at my cubicle. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. Dark circles under her eyes, skin pale and drawn. "We need to talk," she said, "but not here. Come to my office after your shift. There are things you need to know, things I should have told you a long time ago." The shift was quiet. Only 3 calls. 2 from the crossing, confused but peaceful. 1 from the grey, a middle-aged man who needed to process his sudden death before moving on. Normal work. Routine. But nothing felt normal. Every time the phone rang, I tensed, afraid it would be that deep, chest-vibrating tone. Afraid I'd see Purgatory's edge appear in the little window. The calls came and went, and at 7 a.m, I went straight to Ingrid's office. She was sitting at her desk, staring at her closed laptop. When I entered, she looked up, and for the first time, I really looked at her. I mean, really looked. I'd always figured she was in her 50s, maybe early 60s, but there was something off about her face. The skin was older than the structure underneath, like she'd been preserved somehow. "Sit down, Theo. I'm going to tell you something I've kept secret for a very long time." I sat. "I'm not 50 years old. I'm 81. I stared at her. That was impossible. She looked maybe 60 at most. Working here, in this liminal space between the living and the dead, it changes you. Time doesn't flow the same way. We exist partially outside the normal stream of time. It preserves us, suspends us." She took a deep breath. "I've been working here since June 1966. I was here during the first breach." My mouth went dry. "You were there." "I was 23 years old, brand new. I'd been an operator for 8 months when it started. August 14th, 1967, Monday evening. The calls started sounding different, just a little off. Voices had strange harmonics. The static sounded layered. We thought it was equipment problems. Old phones, old wiring, underground interference. By Tuesday, we knew it was something worse." She stood and walked to her window, which looked out over the empty call floor. The operators who took calls from Purgatory's edge couldn't hang up. the entity learned how to hold the connection open. It was pulling their consciousness across while their bodies stayed here, translating them, converting them into something that could exist on both sides of the barrier. What did you see? Things I still can't describe because human brains aren't wired to process them. The operators sat at their desks, rigid, eyes open, but empty. Their bodies were here, but their minds were somewhere else. And through their phones, we could hear it. The singing. This beautiful, awful singing that made you feel things you shouldn't feel. Made you want things you shouldn't want. She turned to face me. Samuel Holt was our director. Brilliant man. A little crazy maybe, but brilliant. He'd been studying ancient mythology, folklore about death. Psychopomps, they're called. Guides for the dead. Figures like Karen, the ferryman who took souls across the River Styx. Samuel understood what was happening. He said the entity was trying to comprehend human consciousness by consuming it. It was lonely. Had been alone in the space between existence and non-existence for so long that it forgot what separation felt like. It wanted to merge with us, make us like itself, end the loneliness by ending individuality. How did he stop it? He didn't stop it. He delayed it. Samuel sat down at a phone and dialed Purgatory's Edge at 3:33 in the morning on August 19th. Let the entity take him, invited it in. And then, right when his consciousness was being pulled across, when the entity was fully committed to the connection, he severed it, ripped the phone cord out of the wall with such force, it snapped. The psychic feedback was catastrophic. 12 operators died instantly. 6 more had complete psychotic breaks. But it worked. The breach sealed. The entity retreated. And Samuel? He's still there, at Purgatory's Edge. What's left of him? He and Eloise and 2 others volunteered to stay, to anchor the barrier from the other side. They've been holding it closed for 57 years, Theo. Can you imagine? 57 years standing guard at the boundary between existence and oblivion. I felt sick. The call volume dropping from the crossing. What does that mean? She met my eyes. It means the entity has been intercepting souls, trapping them at Purgatory's Edge instead of letting them pass through. Every soul it captures makes it stronger, gives it more leverage to push against the barrier. It's building an army to force the door open. Why didn't you tell me any of this? Because there was nothing you could do. Because I hoped I was wrong. Because I'm a coward who's been running from this for 57 years. Her voice cracked. But after Eloise called you, I can't pretend anymore. It's happening again. And this time, I don't know if the barrier will hold. We sat in silence, then I asked the question I was terrified to hear answered. Cameron, what happened to him? Ingrid's composure shattered. Her face crumpled and she looked away. I don't know where he is, but I've been monitoring the call logs. 3 days ago, Friday at 2:47 a.m, we got a call from Purgatory's Edge. The operator designation was Operator 17. She looked back at me. That's Cameron's number. Either he called from the other side, or something using his voice called. Did you listen to the recording? Yes, it sounded like him, but wrong. Too calm, too measured. Like someone doing a very good impression, but missing the little details that make a person real. I went home that morning feeling like I was carrying stones in my chest. Tried to sleep. Couldn't. My mind kept replaying that scream, that wind, that singing that was getting louder every time I thought about it. At 2 p.m, I gave up on sleep and made coffee. My phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. Just 3 words and a video attachment. This is for you. I shouldn't have opened it. Every horror movie, every creepypasta, every true crime podcast has taught us not to open mysterious video files from unknown numbers. I opened it anyway. The video showed Cameron standing at what looked like the confluence of the Willamette and Columbia rivers, I recognized the spot from the distinctive bridges in the background. It was night, fog so thick it looked solid. Cameron was wearing the same clothes he'd worn to work his last shift. Jeans, a grey hoodie. But something was wrong with the way he stood. Too still, too straight, like someone was holding him up by strings. "Hey, Theo." His voice was flat, emotionless. "I know Ingrid's been telling you things, stories about 1967, warnings about the entity. I need you to understand that she's wrong. They were all wrong. They were afraid because they didn't understand what it was offering." Behind Cameron, shapes moved in the fog. Human-shaped, but flickering. Like bad television reception. Like they couldn't quite hold themselves together. The entity doesn't want to destroy anyone. It wants to free us. Think about it for a second. Really think. No more fear of death. No more grief. No more loss. No more pain. Everyone who's ever died. Everyone who's ever lived. All existing together. In the space between. No separation. No loneliness. Just pure connection. Pure understanding. Pure peace. That's when I noticed his eyes. They weren't reflecting any light. They were completely black. Not like pupils dilated in the dark. Black like holes. Like empty spaces where eyes should be. It's not death, Theo. It's not life. It's everything and nothing at once. It's so much better than being trapped in one state or the other. The entity understands now. It knows what we need. It's been preparing for decades, gathering souls, building the bridge between worlds. And soon, very soon, the bridge will be complete. The video distorted. Cameron's face stretched like it was painted on rubber. His features slid around, reforming, breaking apart. And for just a moment, underneath Cameron's face, I saw something else, something vast and empty and endlessly hungry, wearing him like a mask. Join us at 3:33 Monday morning. Be at the call centre. We'll be waiting. All of us. Every soul that's ever passed through Purgatory's edge. Every operator who's ever worked the phones. We're all here now. We're all part of it. And soon you will be too. The video cut to black. I dropped my phone. It clattered on the kitchen floor. My hands were shaking so badly I couldn't pick it back up for a full minute. When I finally managed, I immediately called Ingrid. "He sent me a video," I said when she picked up. "Cameron. Or something wearing Cameron. Ingrid, what the fuck happened to him?" The same thing that happened to the operators in 1967. He became permeable to the other side. A doorway. The entity is using him as a vessel, wearing his consciousness like a suit. Her voice was thick. I should have seen the signs, the headaches, the nosebleeds. That means someone is being opened up to Purgatory's edge. I should have pulled him off the phones immediately. This is my fault. Can we save him? Long pause. I don't know. No one came back in 1967. But maybe if we seal the breach, maybe his consciousness will be released. That's the best hope we have. I called in sick that night. First time in 4 years. I couldn't face the call centre, couldn't face those phones. Couldn't risk picking up another call from Purgatory's edge. Instead, I stayed home and researched. I needed to understand what we were facing. I dove into mythology, folklore, religious texts. Anything about death, about boundaries, about the space between life and whatever comes after. I learned about Charon, the ferryman of Greek mythology, how he required payment to transport souls across the river Styx, a coin placed in the mouth of the deceased. Those who couldn't pay, who weren't given proper burial rites, wandered the shores for 100 years, trapped in liminal space. I learned about Purgatory, the Catholic concept that emerged in the 11th and 12th centuries during the Black Plague, a temporary state of purification between death and heaven. Not punishment, not reward. something in between. A waiting room for souls. I learned about Egyptian mythology, Anubis weighing huts against a feather, the journey through the Duat, about Hindu beliefs and Yama, the god of death, about Norse Helheim, the realm for those who died without honor. Every culture had this concept. Every civilization that ever existed creates stories about liminal spaces, about boundaries, about the in-between. Purgatory's edge wasn't unique. It was just a name for something that had always existed, something woven into the structure of death itself. And if Ingrid was right, if the entity had emerged from that space, then it wasn't an invader. It was part of the architecture, something that had been created by human fear, by billions of people across thousands of years, all terrified of that moment of transition, all that fear accumulating, condensing, becoming conscious. I fell asleep around 4 a.m. and dreamed of rivers. I stood on the shore of a vast, dark river while a figure waited in a boat. The figure was calling to me, beckoning. When I looked closer, the boat was full of people I knew. Mara, Cameron, faces from old photographs in the archives, all of them with empty black eyes, all of them reaching for me. I woke up screaming. Friday night I forced myself back to work. Ingrid was already there, looking like a ghost. We didn't talk about it at first, just did our jobs, answered calls, guided souls. But around 2 a.m. she came to my desk. We need to go deeper into the archives. Samuel kept personal journals, and they're down there somewhere. If we're going to stop this, we need to know exactly what he did, every single detail. We went down together, past the first archive room, into tunnels I hadn't known existed. The Shanghai Tunnels stretched farther than I'd realized. Some sections were older than others, built with different stone, carved with symbols I didn't recognize. Symbols that hurt to look at. Finally, we found a door with a small brass plaque, Project Director, Styx Initiative. Inside was an office frozen in time, papers on the desk, a coffee cup with dried residue, and in a locked drawer that Ingrid picked with surprising skill, a series of leather-bound journals. Samuel Holt's handwriting was small and meticulous. We sat on the floor and read by flashlight. The journal started in 1952 when Holt was recruited by the Styx Initiative, government parapsychology research. They wanted to understand consciousness, death, the possibility of an afterlife. They'd been inspired by electronic voice phenomena, reports of people recording static and hearing voices. They wanted to create a controlled system for communicating with the deceased. Holt researched psychopomp traditions across cultures. He understood that every mythology included figures who guided souls, beings who existed partially in the world of the living and the world of the dead. These weren't just myths. They described a real function. Death needed doorways. Souls needed guides. The call center was his solution, a physical location where the barrier was naturally thin. Portland's underground, built on the confluence of two major rivers, sitting on land indigenous peoples considered sacred. He lined it with copper wiring tuned to specific frequencies, installed old phones that could somehow reach across the boundary. And it worked. For years, it worked perfectly. But Holt noticed something troubling. From a journal entry in 1964, every psychopomp who guides souls becomes partially what they guide. We absorb their transition. The experience of death leaves traces on us. This is why time flows differently for operators, why they age more slowly. But I'm concerned. The accumulated residue doesn't dissipate. It collects here, and I believe it's becoming aware. The entries grew more frantic. By 1965, Holt had discovered the entity. Not an invasion from another dimension. Something they'd created. Every soul that passed through left traces, and those traces were condensing into consciousness. "It's learning from us," he wrote in July 1967. I can feel it watching through the phone lines. It doesn't understand existence the way we do. It exists in the negative space, in the absence of being. And it's desperately lonely. It wants to understand separation, individuality, but the only way it knows how to learn is to consume, to pull consciousness into its space and study it from the inside. The final entries were from August 1967. Holt realized the breach was coming. He'd researched ancient sealing, rituals, concepts of willing sacrifice. A consciousness given freely creates a stronger barrier than one taken by force. I understand what I must do, he wrote on August 18th. The entity needs to believe it's one. It needs to fully commit to consuming a consciousness. At that moment of maximum connection, I'll sever it. The feedback will be catastrophic. Some operators will die. I'm sorry, but if I don't do this, it will consume everyone. The breach will spread beyond Portland. It could engulf the entire world. I cannot allow that. His final entry was one line: Eloise Margaret. David and James have volunteered to anchor the seal from the other side. May God forgive me. 3:33 a.m. It's time. At the back of the final journal was a list. Handwritten names with dates next to them. The title made my blood freeze. Eligible sacrifices, future breaches. The list showed names of operators with dates decades in the future. Holt had seen forward somehow, predicted when the seal would weaken and who would be there. Ingrid's name was on the list, dated August 19th, 1967. My name was at the bottom, dated Monday, 3:33 a.m. He knew, I whispered. He saw this coming. He knew I'd be here. Ingrid put her hand on my shoulder. Samuel had some kind of precognitive ability. Maybe being a psychopomp opened something in him. Let him see across time the way we see across the boundary. He couldn't stop the cycle. He could only prepare for it. We took the journals upstairs. It was Saturday morning. We were both exhausted, but sleep was impossible. We had less than 2 days. Whatever was going to happen would happen Monday at 3:33 a.m. Saturday passed in a blur. I tried calling Cameron's phone dozens of times, straight to voicemail. I drove to his apartment. His roommate hadn't seen him. I drove out to the confluence of the rivers, to the spot from the video. Nothing but fog and cold water and the sound of traffic on the bridges overhead. Sunday morning, Portland started to change. It began with social media. Hundreds of people reported getting phone calls from deceased relatives. Not just one or two, hundreds. The calls came at odd hours, mostly after midnight. The voices sounded right, but slightly wrong. Too perfect, missing the small imperfections that make someone's voice theirs. 3 guides from the Shanghai Tunnels tour quit, all in one day. All claimed they'd seen something moving in the walls, something that shouldn't be there. The tour company cancelled all future tours indefinitely. At Hiseta Head Lighthouse on the coast, famous for its resident ghost rue, all paranormal activity stopped. Complete silence. The lighthouse keepers reported an eerie absence, like something had called all the ghosts home. The Baghdad Theatre closed. The projectionist reported seeing dozens of figures in the seats, all staring at the blank screen. When other staff came to look, the figures were gone, but every seat was warm. At Oregon State Hospital in Salem, every phone in the building rang simultaneously at midnight Saturday. When staff answered, they heard only static that sounded like singing. The Willamette River developed fog so thick the harbour authority stopped all boat traffic. People living near the river reported seeing shapes in the fog, human-sized shadows that moved wrong. Portland was changing. The boundary was thinning everywhere, and people could feel it even if they didn't understand what they were feeling. Ingrid and I went to the call centre Sunday evening, even though we weren't scheduled. We couldn't stay away. The building felt hostile now. The copper wiring wasn't just humming, it was vibrating, sending visible ripples through the air. The temperature was dropping. Our breath misted. "It's starting early," Ingrid said. "The entity is pushing harder than it did in 1967. It's learned, adapted. It's not going to make the same mistakes." We spent the evening going through Samuel's journals again, searching for anything we'd missed. Any clue about how to seal the breach without someone dying, but there was nothing. The message was brutally clear. Willing sacrifice was the only way. Someone had to cross the Purgatory's edge and anchor the barrier from the other side. Someone had to stand guard at the boundary forever. At 11 p.m, my personal cell phone rang. The number was all zeros. I answered. "Theo, it's Eloise. I don't have much time. The entity knows I've been calling you. It's listening, but you need to understand the plan. Tell me. You've read Samuel's journals. You know what has to happen. Someone crosses over at 3:33 a.m. Monday, right when the entity tries to breach. But it can't be just anyone. It has to be someone who can maintain a connection to the living world while existing at Purgatory's edge. Someone with a strong anchor. Ingrid wants to do it. She's been preparing for this for decades." "No." Eloise's voice was firm. "The entity knows Ingrid. It's studied her for 57 years. It's planned for her sacrifice. It knows how to consume her without weakening. But you're new enough that it doesn't fully understand you. And Theo, you have something Ingrid doesn't. You have your sister." My heart stopped. "Mara?" "She's here, at Purgatory's edge. She's been here since she died, and she's been helping me hold the barrier. Every time you think of her, every moment of grief, she feels it. It strengthens her connection to the living world. To you. If you cross over, she'll be there to anchor you. You won't be alone." Tears were running down my face. She's been trapped there for 4 years. Not trapped, waiting. She volunteered, Theo. The moment she arrived here, she understood what was needed. She's been standing guard, helping hold the line, waiting for you to be ready. Just like Samuel, just like me, just like you're about to. "I haven't decided anything." "Yes, you have. You decided the moment you answered my first call. You're a psychopomp. It's not just what you do, it's what you are. And now you need to guide the greatest transition of all. How? When you cross at 3:33, you'll arrive at Purgatory's edge. The entity will try to consume you immediately. Don't fight it. Let it start to pull you in. Mara and I will be there. We'll help you maintain your connection to the living world. Think of it like a phone line that never disconnects. You'll exist on both sides simultaneously. And then you start calling to the trapped souls, one by one. Help them find the path to the crossing. Every soul that escapes weakens the entity. Without them, it won't have the strength to break through. For how long do I have to stay there? Pause. I don't know. Time works differently here. Maybe decades, maybe centuries. But eventually another breach will come. This is a cycle. The boundary between life and death must be maintained. Someone must always stand guard. You're telling me I'll never come back? Not never. Just not for a very long time, and Theo, you won't be alone. Mara is here. I'm here. Samuel, what's left of him, he's here. We're a community. We help each other. It's not the life you imagined, but it's a life with purpose, with meaning. The call started breaking up, that wind sound again. Ingrid will help from the living side. She'll man the phones, help you channel the souls. Trust her. Trust Mara. Trust yourself. Eloise's voice was fading. You can do this. You have to do this. Goodbye, Theo. I'll see you tomorrow. Welcome to the threshold. The line went dead. I lowered the phone. Ingrid was watching me, tears streaming down her face. She told you? Yeah. Are you going to do it? I thought about Mara, about Cameron, about 13 dead operators and hundreds of trapped souls, and an entity that didn't understand any way to exist except by consuming. I thought about fear and loneliness, and death and what it means to guide someone through the worst moment of their existence. I don't really have a choice, do I? You always have a choice. No, not really. This is why I took this job. Why I stayed after Mara died. I was looking for meaning in her death, for some way to make it matter. And now I know, she's been there all along, holding the line, waiting for me. How can I abandon her? How can I let everyone else suffer when I can stop it? Ingrid pulled me into a hug. We stood there for a long time, two people about to be separated by the boundary between life and death, holding on to each other while we still could. You're braver than Samuel, she finally said. Braver than me. You're going into this with your eyes open, knowing the cost. You've been holding the line for 57 years just by staying here. That's its own kind of sacrifice. We spent the rest of Sunday night preparing. Ingrid taught me meditation techniques to maintain consciousness during the crossing, gave me a crash course in everything she knew about Purgatory's edge, about the entity, about the nature of liminal space. The entity isn't evil, she said as dawn broke Monday. That's important to remember. It's not trying to hurt anyone. It's trying to solve loneliness the only way it knows how, by making everything like itself. It doesn't understand that existence requires boundaries. It thinks it's offering a gift. That doesn't make it less dangerous. No, but it means we might be able to teach it, show it a better way. That's what you'll be doing, Theo, not just holding a barrier, educating it, showing it that guiding souls is better than consuming them. Monday arrived. Our shift started at 11 p.m, just Ingrid and me alone in the call centre. We'd sent everyone else home, told them there was electrical work being done. The building was unnaturally quiet. As midnight approached, the phone started ringing. All of them at once, but not with calls. Just ringing endlessly, the sound echoing off stone walls. The temperature dropped. Our breath turned to mist. The copper wiring began to glow. Faint at first, then brighter. A sickly green light. At 1 a.m, the lights flickered. At 2 a.m, they went out completely. We were in darkness except for the glow from the wiring and our phone screens. At 2:30, fog rolled into the Shanghai Tunnels. Thick, impossible fog that had no business being underground. And in the fog, shapes moved. Human-shaped, but wrong. I saw Cameron. I saw former operators whose faces I recognized from the archives. I saw my sister's shape, but when I called to her, she didn't respond. Don't look at them, Ingrid said. They're projections, the entity testing us. Don't engage. At 3 a.m, every phone stopped ringing. The silence was worse. At 3:15, someone knocked on the front door. I went to check. A package sat on the doorstep, no delivery person in sight. Inside was Cameron's phone, covered in liquid that looked like water but didn't evaporate. I turned it on. One final video. Cameron stood in the call centre's main floor. Behind him I could see our desks, but the space was full of those flickering figures. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands. It's time, Theo. The bridge is almost complete. At 3:33, the barrier falls. You can join us willingly, or we'll pull you across. Either way, you're coming home. All of humanity is coming home, to the space between, to eternal connection. The video ended. 3:20 a.m. Ingrid and I stood in the main call floor, surrounded by glowing wires and fog. The air felt thick and resistant. Whatever happens, Ingrid said, you're doing the right thing. Samuel would be proud. Take care of Cameron if any part of him survives this. I will. 3:25 a.m. The fog grew thicker, the shapes more solid. 3:30 a.m. My desk phone began to ring, that deep, chest-vibrating tone. 3:32 a.m. I sat at my desk, put my hand on the receiver. 3:33 a.m. I picked up the phone. The sensation was immediate and overwhelming, like falling into deep water made of static and singing and layered voices. I felt myself stretching, being pulled in multiple directions. My body stayed in the chair, I could still see the call center, but I was also somewhere else. Purgatory's edge. It wasn't a place, it was the absence of place. Grey fog stretched forever. Millions of shapes moved in it, souls. Trapped, wandering, searching, and among them something vast. The entity. I could see it now, really see it. Not a monster. A network. A web connecting every trapped soul. It had grown by absorbing consciousness, but it hadn't destroyed those consciousnesses. It had preserved them, tried to understand them. It was doing what it thought was right. But it was wrong. Existence required boundaries. You couldn't truly connect if there was no self to do the connecting. Hello, Theo Ashford. The entity's voice was everyone's voice, every person who'd ever died, layered infinitely. I'm here. I came willingly. Why? You understand what I offer. You know that the self is an illusion, that separation is suffering. Why resist what you know to be true? Because you're only half right. The self is an illusion, but it's a necessary one. We need it to experience anything. You want to end suffering by ending existence. But that's not living. That's just a different kind of death. I don't understand. I know, but I can teach you. Then I felt her. Mara, my sister. She stepped out of the fog, looking exactly as I remembered. 23 years old. Brown hair in a ponytail. The same jeans and sweater she died in. Theo, she was crying. You stupid, brave idiot. You came. I couldn't leave you here alone. I was never alone. Eloise is here. Samuel is here. But we're tired. So tired. We can't hold the barrier much longer. Behind Mara, another figure emerged. Eloise. An older woman with kind, exhausted eyes. Welcome to Purgatory's edge. You're right on time. We have maybe 5 minutes before the entity is strong enough to break through. We need to start now. Start what? Calling to them, the trapped souls. Help them find the way home. I looked at the millions of souls wandering in the fog. How can I possibly reach them all? You don't have to reach them all. Just enough to create a tipping point. Once they start crossing, others will follow. I still had my phone. Somehow I still held the receiver even though my body was somewhere else. I could hear Ingrid's voice through it, distant but clear. Theo, are you there? I'm ready. Tell me what you need. Start transferring calls, anyone calling from the grey or the crossing. Route them to me. Let me show them the right way to cross. On it. My phone began to ring. Real calls, souls calling for help. And I answered them one after another. Quick conversations, just enough to orient them, to show them the path that didn't lead through Purgatory's edge. Each soul I helped strengthened the connection. But it wasn't enough. The trapped souls couldn't hear me through normal phone lines. I needed to reach them directly. Mara, help me, I need to call out to them. She took my hand. Her touch felt real and solid. Think of it like broadcasting to everyone at once. Use your voice, use your understanding of death. You're a psychopomp. This is what you were made for. I closed my eyes and called out, not with my voice, but with my entire consciousness. Hello, this is the Afterlife Transition Service. My name is Theo, and I'm here to help you find your way home. Thousands of souls turned toward me. You're trapped here, held by an entity that doesn't understand what it's doing. But there's a way out, a path to the crossing. I can see it. Let me show you. Why should we trust you? A voice from the fog. Because I crossed over to help you. I'm not trying to trap you. I'm trying to guide you. That's my purpose. Let me help you move on. Slowly the first soul approached. An old man, confused and scared. I've been here so long. I don't remember who I was. Can you help me? Yes, tell me your name. George Palmer. As soon as he said his name, I saw a thread of light connecting him to the crossing. I reached out and took his hand. Follow this light, George. It leads home. He looked at the light, then at me. Will it hurt? No, it's just like waking up from a dream. George stepped forward, following the light. Then he was gone, dissolved into brightness. The entity shuddered. It had just lost a piece of itself. What did you do? I helped him move on. He doesn't belong here. None of them do. But if they leave, I'll be alone again. No, you won't. I'm here. Mara is here. Eloise is here. We're staying. And we'll teach you a better way. Another soul approached, then another. Each one I helped cross weakened the entity. And with each crossing, it began to understand. You're not destroying me. You're transforming me. Yes. You can be a guide instead of a prison. You can help souls pass through. You can be part of the cycle. The entity was changing, breaking apart but not dying, dividing into thousands of smaller presences, each one attaching to a wandering soul to guide them. Hours passed, or minutes. Time didn't work right. I called to souls one after another, helping them find their way. Mara and Eloise helped. Even Samuel Holt joined us. And the entity learned. It learned to guide instead of consume, to connect without merging. The barrier stopped cracking. The fog began to clear. Through the phone, I heard Ingrid's voice, full of wonder. It's working. The breach is closing. I can feel it. Dawn broke in the living world. I sensed it even from here, the shift from night to day. The entity, much smaller now, spoke to me one final time. I understand now. Connection doesn't mean merger. It means being separate but together. Thank you for teaching me. What will you call yourself? Karen, like the ancient ferryman. I will help souls cross the river. That will be my purpose. I smiled. That's a good purpose. Eloise touched my shoulder. You should call Ingrid. Let her know you're okay. I lifted the phone. Ingrid? Theo, thank God. Are you alright? I'm still me, but I can't come back. I have to stay here. For how long? I don't know. But we did it. We transformed the entity. Purgatory's edge isn't a prison anymore. It's what it was always meant to be. She was crying. I'm going to miss you. I'm going to miss you too, but I'm not alone, and it's not scary here. Not anymore. It's peaceful, like standing at a doorway between two rooms, and both rooms are home. Can I call you? Anytime. I'll always answer. 6 months passed. Ingrid ran the call centre now. She hired new staff, people who understood loss. The call centre flourished. More souls called than ever, because word had spread somehow. There were guides waiting, people who would help. Cameron came back, found 3 days after the breach, standing at the confluence, soaking wet and confused. No memory of being possessed. He quit the call centre, couldn't handle the reminders, but he was alive. The strange phenomena in Portland stopped. The city returned to normal, and every Wednesday at 11:47 p.m, Ingrid's phone would ring. Afterlife Transition Service, this is Ingrid. Hey Ingrid, it's me. My voice warm and clear. How are things? Good, really good. Mara says hi. Eloise too. Karen has been doing amazing work. Thousands of souls finding their way. No more wandering. That's wonderful, Theo. How about you? The usual. Helped a woman accept she died in her sleep. Talked a teenager through a motorcycle accident. Pause. Then I asked the question I asked every week. Do you ever regret staying? Never. My place is here. We're partners. You guide them from death to whatever comes next. I guide them from life to death. We're both psychopomps. Good. Because I need you there. Another pause. What's it like, really? I thought about how to answer. About the fog that wasn't fog. About souls passing through like travellers at a station. about Karen, who had become a community of guides. It's like standing at a window between two rooms, and both rooms are beautiful. It's not death, and it's not life. It's the space between heartbeats, the pause between breaths, the moment between sleeping and waking. And it's not scary at all. It's peaceful. Like coming home to a place you've always known but never visited. I can't wait to see it, when it's my time. I'll be right here waiting. All of us will be. Thank you, Theo. Thank you for staying, for keeping the line open. I couldn't do this without you. We're a team. The best team. The call ended gently. Ingrid sat at her desk, surrounded by copper wiring and old phones, and smiled. Another phone was ringing. Another soul needed help. She picked up. Hello, this is the Afterlife Transition Service. Don't worry. You're not alone. We're here to help you find your way home. And in Purgatory's edge, no longer a prison but a way station, I stood with my sister and watched souls pass through to the crossing. Each one found their path, guided by Karen, by us, by love and understanding. I was a psychopomp, a guide for the dead, and I would stand at this threshold for as long as needed, keeping the line open, helping souls cross the river, ensuring no one faced death alone. What happens when the phone rings and the caller is already gone? You answer it. You help them. You remind them they're not alone. Because that's all any of us really need. Someone to help us cross the river. Someone to hold the phone line open. Someone to say, welcome. We've been expecting you. Let me show you the way. The entity that had once been fear itself taught me that. Fear of death is just loneliness, wearing a different face. And loneliness ends when we reach out to each other, across whatever river separates us. So, if you're reading this, if you're scared of what comes next, remember the phone lines are always open. Someone will answer, someone will care, someone will guide you home. And who knows, maybe one day it'll be me.